Google Calendar is an easy-to-use yet powerful scheduling solution that makes sharing events and calendars with others a breeze. Knowing how to use it effectively will save you time and help keep your life more organized. Hi everyone, I'm Anson Alexander, and in this video, I'm going to show you everything that you need to know to use Google Calendar effectively and efficiently. I'll cover all of the primary features, I'll provide examples for sharing events and sharing calendars, and plenty of tips and tricks to enhance your experience. Let's get into it. Okay, so here I am in Google Calendar. I got here by going to calendar.google.com, and then I logged in with a Google account. When you first log into Google Calendar, you'll see the current day in the middle of your screen, and you can tell it's the current day because it's highlighted in blue. Since we're in the week view, we can also see the current time by this little red line. So if we had a meeting coming up here in our schedule, we'd be able to see that the current time is approaching that meeting, so get ready. Now at the same time, we also have a mini calendar over here to the left, so you can cycle through the months by using the arrows. And then if you want to go to a particular day, you can click on it, and in our case right now, since we're in week view, it takes us to the week of the 22nd, or it's the week of the 21st, right? But we clicked on the 22nd, so we're shown this week. If you ever want to go back to today, you can just click on the Today button up here at the top left. Now, like I said, we're currently in the week view, but if we take a look over here at the top right of the screen, we have a drop down where we can change our view. So we could look at a month view, and you can kind of see what the calendar looks like there. If we had any events, they'd be listed on here. I also want to show you the schedule view. This is a very helpful view if you have a day jam-packed with meetings. You'll see all your meetings listed. Right now we only have the holidays listed because we don't have any meetings on this calendar, but if we had, say, 8 meetings in one day, we would see all 8 of those meetings here listed. So that's a really helpful view for those busy days. But for now, I'll go ahead and I'll go back to the week view. And now let's start talking about creating events. There are a couple of different ways to create events here in Google Calendar. You can either click on the Create button up here at the top left, and then you can choose Event, or you can just single click on the day and time in your calendar. So since we're in week view, let's say I wanted to create a reoccurring event for Mondays. So let me go ahead and go to next week since that hasn't happened yet. And we'll go ahead and we want to create a weekly kickoff meeting. So I'm just going to click here at, say, 8:30. So you'll notice when I click, a little window pops up, and this is the quick create event window. And we can create an event right from here if we'd like. We can add a title, you can fill out this information, and then click Save. However, we can also access more options by clicking on this More Options button, and I want to show you that because that's just going to allow me to show you more features. We'll have everything there that we have on this screen, plus some more. So let's click on More Options. So now we are in the full event creation screen. You'll notice that first of all, at the top, we can give our event a title. So we could just call this Kickoff Meeting. And then we can specify the day and the time. So obviously we clicked on our calendar on the day and time that we wanted it, but if we had been in, say, the month view and we just clicked on a day, it wouldn't know exactly what time we wanted it. So we want to check and make sure that it's correct. So maybe this isn't 8:30 to 9:30, it's just 8:30 to 9, so it's only half an hour. And then we have the option here to make this an all-day event. Generally speaking, that's going to be for like when you're on vacation or if you have a business trip, events that will take the entire day. So maybe you're going to a conference, you could create it as an all-day event. And then if you have meetings at that conference, you can create additional events that are at a specific time that get added to your calendar in addition to the all-day event. So for this particular meeting, it's only half an hour. It's not an all-day event. However, it does repeat. So you'll notice that we have this drop down, and by default it says does not repeat, but that's not what we want. We want this one to repeat weekly on Monday, but notice that we have a number of different options. You can have it repeat monthly on the first Monday, since that's the one we're looking at right now. If this was the second Monday, it would ask us if we wanted to create it every second Monday of the month. You could have it repeat annually, every weekday, or we could even do a custom repeat schedule. So I'll let you check that out if you'd like. But for this one, we want it to repeat weekly on Monday. So now down here, we have the event details. But before I get into that, I want to show you this little option here. It says Find a Time. And when we click on that, it will bring up our calendar for the current day and time that we have selected up here at the top, to allow us to look at our calendar to make sure we're not overscheduling. So we can look in here and see what slots we have available. So that just helps you find a time. So let's click back to the event details. And notice that if we were doing a video meeting, using Google Meet, we could add the meeting right here, and it would create the meeting link for us, and it would email it to all the guests once we invite them to this event, so that we don't have to go in, afterwards and create a Google Meet meeting and set up the time and everything. Google Calendar will do it for us. If you want to add a location, you could do that. This is obviously important if you're having people who are traveling in for an event that they might not be used to traveling to your location. Let them know the address so that they can get there properly. And then down here we have the notification settings. So by default, it's going to send us a notification 1 day before this event. So that's 24 hours before the start time of this event. And you'll notice that, a notification is in a browser, you'll get a pop-up. And so you do need to allow Google Calendar to show you pop-ups in order to see those browser notifications. However, on your mobile device, if you have Google Calendar set up on your mobile phone, you will get a push notification. Now, if we click on this drop-down, you'll notice that we also have the option for an email notification. And, right now it's set to 1 day, but instead of days, we could do minutes, hours, days, or weeks. So this is before the event starts. So I could do this, 1 hour before. And obviously I could change this number too. So I could make it, 2 hours before. So that's up to you. And I'm going to show you here in a little bit when we get into our Google Calendar settings, how you can change the default notifications for your calendar so that you don't have to go into every event and set the notifications if there's a certain notification that you like to get every single time. So I'll show you how to do that once we get into the Google Calendar settings. But for now, you can choose whichever you'd like. And notice that you can add multiple notifications if you'd like as well. So you can do email and pop-up as well. Down here in this section, we can choose which calendar we'd like to put this event on. Now, by default, it's going to add it to our private default Google Calendar that's created when we create a Google Calendar account. However, we can have multiple calendars here in Google Calendar, and I'm going to show you how to create and share multiple calendars. And if we are using multiple calendars, we want to make sure that we're choosing the right calendar here. Like I said, by default, it's going to be your personal private calendar, but you might have, say, a company calendar, or I like to have a calendar with my wife so that we have family events on there. So if I'm scheduling a meeting or an event for the family calendar, I want to make sure that I'm choosing the family calendar here when I create the event. Now, the next option with the suitcase symbol to the left is where we can specify how this event should affect our schedule availability. I think there can be some confusion about this option, so I want to spend a couple minutes here. There are really two things going on. The first one, where it says busy, lets us specify whether or not we want others to see us as busy for this event or not. So if somebody else is going to invite us to an event and we have selected busy and we go ahead and we save this event, if they schedule their event for the same time at 8:30 on August 7th, it's going to let them know when they invite us that we're busy at that time. Now, depending on what we do with the next option, they may or may not be able to see why we're busy, but the first option just lets them know that we're busy so they can try and reschedule the event for another time. If for some reason we want to appear free, we don't want people to know that we're doing something, or maybe it's one of those all-day events where you still want to be invited to meetings, you want to mark this as free so that when people invite you to an event, it's not telling them, hey, they can't attend, they're busy. You want to let them invite you. So we'll leave this as busy because this is a half an hour in-person meeting and we don't want other people to schedule things for us over it. But do be aware that that's what that first option is. Now, this second option deals with the visibility of the event itself. So by default, in your Google Calendar, you actually have some settings for the calendar itself that deal with whether or not events are public or private. And by default, it's set to private. So by default, where it says this default visibility, if you haven't changed any settings in Google Calendar and you choose default visibility, it will be a private event. So only you and the guests that you invite will be able to see the details. However, if you want this event to be public, so maybe it's going on your company website or it's an organization and you're having fundraisers and things like that, you would want to make this event public. Now, like I said, if you haven't made any changes, you should be safe leaving it at default visibility. However, if you want to be sure, you can always select private, and then you know for sure that only you and the people invited will be able to see the event details. So we'll leave it as busy and private for that section. Then down here at the bottom, we can add an event description. Notice that you have a lot of word processing tools that you can use to write that out. You can add links in here. You can even add attachments by uploading files. So if there's a brochure or an image, a PDF, anything like that, you can upload it right here to the event description. Now, once we have all that sorted out, we need to talk about adding guests to our event. So we can add guests over here to the right, and the easiest way to add them is by email address. However, if you have your guests in your Google Contacts, you can just start typing their name and it will automatically pop up. And so this is actually the same account that I'm on. So let's go ahead and add another one as well. I guess this isn't in my contacts. And so we will add that person as well. So I just, wrote the email address and then hit enter. And you'll notice that they get added to a list down here. Now from here, I could hit the X to remove them from this event. If I've already sent an invitation, they'll still see the invitation email. You can't unsend that. But when they click to see the event details, they will no longer have access as long as it's a private event, right? And so you'll notice that when I add that second email address, it says that the calendar cannot be shown. However, if you work for an organization and you all use Google Calendar, or if you have shared calendars with somebody in your family, when you add them to this event, you'll see a different option here, which I'll show on the screen now, that says suggested times. And if you click on that, it will check and make sure that all of your guests are free during the time of this event. And it will try to find a free slot. So let's say you work at a company and you maybe invite 8 people to a meeting. You all use Google Calendar. You could click on suggested times and it will find a time where everybody is available. So that's a great way to schedule meetings when everybody else has a busy schedule as well and you're always having trouble trying to find the perfect time. Google Calendar can help you do that if everybody in your organization is using Google Calendar. So don't forget to check out that feature as well. And then down at the bottom, there are a few other permissions. You can take a look at them. They're pretty self-explanatory, but do you want guests to be able to modify the event? So the description, the time, all sorts of things like that. Do you want them to be able to invite other people? And do you want them to be able to see the guest list? So once you've got everything figured out how you'd like it to be, you can go ahead and click on the blue Save button at the top right. And it lets us know, hey, we invited some people to this event. Do we want to send them invitation emails? Generally speaking, if you want to notify them about the event, then it's probably a good idea, but you might have a company culture or something that's different than that, so obviously it depends on your situation. But I would normally click send. For now, I'm just going to click don't send because it's just a test event. So now you can see we're brought back here into Google Calendar, and we can see that we have our kickoff meeting scheduled for 8:30 a.m. on Monday. If we were to go to the next week, we can see that on the 14th, we also have that meeting, and I could just switch to the month view. And you'll notice that we have our kickoff meeting now scheduled for every Monday. So now that we have our meeting scheduled, we can actually click on it right here on the calendar, and it will bring up all of the details about this event. So we can see the title, the time, all the things that we specified. Now from here, we could modify the event by clicking on the pencil icon. We could delete it by clicking on the trash icon, and because this is a repeating event, let me show you. When I click on delete, it lets me know, do I just want to delete this single event? Do I want to delete this event and all of the future ones? Or do I want to delete this event, all the future ones, and all of the past events? That would be this all events option. Now I'm not going to do that right now, but I just wanted to show you how you could delete an event. And so we can click cancel, and then notice that there are also 3 dots here that have a number of different options. You can duplicate events, you can print them, you could change the owner of it, and if this was a public event, you would be able to share it from here as well. So down here, you can specify whether you are going or not. Generally you are. By default, it says that you're going to an event that you've created, but maybe you're just the creator and you're not going to be there. You could select no here. But that's just how you can view your event details. So we'll just go ahead and close that out for now. Okay, awesome. That should cover events pretty well. Now let's talk about using multiple calendars and sharing calendars. So if you take a look at the left side of the screen, we have 2 sections. We have the My Calendars section and we have the Other Calendars section. The My Calendars section will have any calendars that you either create or are the owner of, and the Other Calendars section will have calendars that have been shared with you. Notice that for all of these calendars, there's a little checkbox, and we can display and hide these calendars as we'd like. So we can have multiple calendars displayed at once, meaning we're going to see all the events from all of our calendars, or we could only display one calendar. If it's maybe a packed calendar and we don't want to view all the other ones, we could just look at that one. So you might have one for work, you might have a personal one, you might have a family one, and then you might have, different ones for different organizations that you're part of. So when you're scheduling those organization events, you can have those calendars displayed, but if you're just looking at your personal life events, you can only display those ones. So for instance, if I hide the personal one, you'll notice that the kickoff meeting disappears. The event is still there. It hasn't been deleted or anything, but I'm just not looking at that calendar anymore. If we were to, begin a month with a holiday, so September should have a holiday, the holidays are still there, but I could uncheck that and hide the holidays as well. And then I could recheck my personal to show the meetings. And then I could also show the meetings and the holidays. So you can mix and match these calendars however you'd like. That's what the checkboxes are over here on the left. So if we want to create a new calendar, the easiest way to do that is to just click on this plus button here next to other calendars. You'll notice that we have a few different options here, but the one that we want is create new calendar. We're brought here into the Google Calendar settings where we can give our calendar a name, a description, and we can select the time zone. And then once we're ready, we can click Create Calendar. You'll notice that when we do that, here in our settings, we now have another calendar listed, Work Calendar. It's in the settings for My Calendars. So if I click on Work Calendar, we're brought to this calendar settings here in Google Calendar settings. So these are only the settings for this particular calendar, but this is where we can share it. So I want to go through this since we were brought here anyways. So we already gave it a name, we gave it a description, we specified a time zone, which was automatically specified based on the time zone where I'm at. So down here, I'm not going to go through all of the settings in Google Calendar, but I'm going to go through the important ones. So first of all, we have the auto accept invitations, not that important. This one's important. If we want this to be a public calendar, all we need to do is select this checkbox right here, and then we can get the shareable link to share it. But notice that this is where we can add people to share this calendar with. So I could go ahead and I could click on that, and then I could invite the person that I'd like to share it with. So this could be, I'm creating the work calendar, but I could be creating a family calendar. We could pretend it's a family, and this is somebody else in my family. So I go ahead and enter their email address, and then I can select the permissions that they should have for this calendar. So only to see whether I'm free or busy. So that's a good option for your personal calendar. You can share it with your family, but if you don't want them to see the actual events, for whatever reason, you could just make it so they can see that you're free or busy, but they can't see the details, or we could make it so that they can see all the details, or we could make it so they can make changes to events, or so that they could make changes and manage sharing. So obviously that's up to you. Maybe for this one, I just want them to be able to see it. So I can go ahead and click send. And then down here, I mentioned that we could specify default notifications. So that's where this is right here, event notifications. We're talking about this calendar's event notifications. So we can specify the default notifications for this particular calendar just by clicking on this button and then adding the notifications like we did when creating an event. So I'm just going to remove that for now. Same thing if we wanted to create all-day event notifications. And you'll notice that there are a number of other notification options in here as well. So when changes are made to the calendar, when people are invited, or the event is canceled, all that sort of thing, you can go in here and you can take a look and specify that if you'd like. And then down at the very bottom is where you can unsubscribe to a calendar that's been shared with you if you no longer want to see it. And you could also delete your calendar if you wanted as well. It will delete all of the events on that calendar. So be careful down here at the bottom. But okay, that's enough for the settings for right now. We'll be back here in a minute. Let's go back and let's make sure that this calendar is actually working. So here it is. We have work calendar. So we could go ahead and, we have this kickoff meeting, which is on the personal calendar. Maybe I could click on this event, and then I could go ahead and you'll notice that my calendar is right here, but I could click on the pencil. I could go into this event to this calendar section that we looked at earlier, and now I could specify that I want it on my work calendar. And I could give this event a particular color if I'd like. By default, it's just going to get the color of the calendar. So we go ahead and save this. You'll notice that we can change our calendar colors over here, right, from the 3 dots in the list over here. But by default, all the events are going to get the color of the calendar. So we actually created this event and it moved it to our work calendar, but notice something interesting. It actually duplicated this event. And it does that by default just in case Google Calendar doesn't want you to mistakenly delete things. So even if I refresh the page, you'll notice that I still have both events. So now I could go to the one on the personal calendar, which I can tell because of the blue and blue. And I could hit delete, and I could delete all the events, so every single one, and they're all off the personal calendar, but I now have it on the work calendar. And then just to show you something else, let's just say I had a dentist appointment, and that dentist appointment was at a particular time. Let's say it was at 2 p.m., and I'm going to put it on my personal calendar. Now I can click save. You'll notice that we have the work event, which is the same color as the work calendar. Then we have the personal event, the same color as the personal calendar. And if I hide my personal calendar, it hides my personal event. But I can display it again, and then I can hide my work calendar, and it hides the work meetings. I can hide the holidays. So you can see how we can view all the calendars at once, or we can mix and match however we'd like. Okay, awesome. We've created and shared a calendar and know how to use it. There are just a few more things that I think you're going to find useful. First of all, up here at the top right, remember that there's a magnifying glass. And if you click on it, you can search for your events. So you can search by the people who are invited to the events, the name of the events, the description. And if you click on this little arrow over to the right, there are even more options about searching for, who's in the event or where it is or the date range that it could be in. So if you're having trouble finding a particular event, this is very powerful. Do not forget to use the search feature. Aside from that, let's take a look at our Google Calendar settings. So I'm just going to click on this gear icon. And first of all, notice that we have this density and color option, which allow us to change some of the aesthetic things about our Google Calendar, essentially what color set we're using and how dense we want the information. So do be aware that that is where that is. But what we really want to get to is the actual settings by clicking on the gear icon and then settings. So here we are in the settings, and we were here earlier. We were working in this bottom left area, and now we're going to go through our general Google Calendar settings. I'm not going to go through everyone, don't worry. I'm just going to go through the important ones. You can click over here on the left to get to the different areas, or you can scroll down and it will just take you through all of them. So notice that we've got all the language, country. If you are using a different time zone, you can change that as well. So these are the default event settings. So when we create an event on Google Calendar, by default, how long do we want that event to be? By default, it's 60 minutes. If you always create half-an-hour events, you could change the default in here if you'd like. And there are some default guest permissions. You also have some settings on how you would like your notifications to be displayed. And then you've got some view option settings, which I do think are important. So some people like to turn off weekends. Some people like to have their week start on Monday instead of Sunday because that's the start of the work week. You can set a custom view. So by default, we have month view, we have week view, we have year view. We don't have a 2-week view, right? So you could have a 2-week view, or you could have, a 4-day view. So there are some custom views in here that you can look at. And then scrolling down, there isn't too much more. If you want to be able to see your calendar offline, you can check this checkbox down here at the very bottom. That's pretty much it for the important settings, although you can look through on your own and see what you can find. So I hope you now feel comfortable creating events in Google Calendar, working with and creating multiple shared calendars, and tweaking your account settings to fit your needs. If you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate a thumbs up here on YouTube. If there's specific things you want to know about Google Calendar, don't forget to ask me in the comments section. And if you want to see more technology, tips, and tutorials, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's all I've got for you for today. This is Anson from AnsonAlex.com.